And I talk about the design of business, and joining me always is...
Jose Caballero, and I talk about the business of design.
I think we just took each other's line.
No, the business of design. I said
I
it
talk
right.
about the design of business.
The business
We
of
just
design.
saw-
Oh, the design of business. Damn you!
confusing.
I
Now
really
you're
always messed it up.
confusing yourself,
And here's
so.
Rocio Villalobos.
And who are you?
I'm Rocio Villalobos, and I am here representing our audience.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us.
And wait, we have an audience actually too.
Yeah, we have an audience joining us all.
Hand of
Yay!
applause to the audience. Or you guys have to say something.
No, you don't have to say anything.
All right, that's it.
Nicole, Vincent, Ty, and Andrew. And is Adam still in the building? Well, whatever.
No, he's left the building.
Let's get the
Let's
show
get
rolling.
started.
Can we roll the title graphic? Title
No title graphic?
magic. It's gonna...
That's live right there. Let's just do it. Let's just do
Wow.
it. Forget about the title graphic.
Okay, all right, let's just jump into
Let's
it.
go
then.
to the topic.
Today,
That's what people want
we're
to
going to
know.
talk about how to sell strategy. I got this great graphic. If somebody were to switch to my laptop, as you'll notice, we have two dueling laptops.
Dueling laptops.
Switch to
But
the
let's
lap-
just introduce it. Like, what is strategy? Forget about the graphics, Mr. Graphic.
Come on,
designer.
dude.
You want it to... There we go!
All right.
That's strategy.
Woo, took a long time to hit that button. Anyways, we're talking about how to sell strategy. So what is it, Jose? What is strategy?
I mean, strategy is the ability to define how to get from point A to point B. It's really the roadmap. It's really the process of defining that. And you said it really well a second ago. What is it to you?
I think strategy is something that designers naturally have always done, but it's a way to actually go in even deeper in terms of what matters to the client in terms of their both business and their brand.
Got it. So it's really figuring out what matters to the client in terms of what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things that you mentioned to me today earlier in the car, Chris, which was very interesting, is that some designers are, they are given a brief and then they go away and they say, I want to do my own artsy thing. And what is that?
I think
going on there?
a lot of designers don't understand the connection between the brief, the objective, in words, and their design. They think of themselves as an expert who they want to essentially show off their ability to design at their taste level to their client. And oftentimes this gets them into trouble. Right? And so it's hard to understand what it's like to be a client.
Interesting. It's ego
It's
Yeah.
ego. It's a couple other
and
things.
lack of empathy.
Yeah, but that's a way to frame it.
Right.
I also look at it like, if you have ever been a client before where somebody's had to give you creative services, then you'll start to understand the challenges that your clients face. And you're right, it is at the end of the day lack of empathy and ego that's getting in the way, right?
I also think it's lack of information.
Meaning you don't have enough information to do the brief. You're like, what do I
Well,
do?
if somebody gives you a brief and they're like, okay, here you go.
And it's not complete.
I mean, it's not only, maybe it's complete, but maybe there just needs to be more conversation and more communication between all the parties involved for you to actually get those nuggets that are going to really make you feel like you have something strong.
Wait, I don't understand that.
I do. I understood it.
Well, can I
You want me to
clarify?
Christo it?
No, I want to
Oh,
Rocio.
yeah. Okay, Rocio.
Well, so for example, the way that we used to do discovery processes before was we would create a questionnaire, we would customize it to the client, we'd give it to the client, we get it back, we'd review a little bit back and forth, and then we'd go and do the project, right? Which is great, we come up with a good product, but the whole purpose of a good strategy that's more interactive within all the people involved is that there's a little more banter back and forth. Not banter, but there's a little more communication, and you're able to get nuggets out and then expand upon those in real time.
More interaction.
Okay, is that what you're going to say?
No, yeah, I
Okay,
was
why
going to
don't you
summarize that. What
summarize
she's
it a
trying to say
different
is
way?
that in order to get better alignment, the more that you go back and forth between all the stakeholders,
Okay.
the better, in real time. Does that
Okay.
make sense? Like
Yeah,
with
that
everybody
makes
in the room.
sense. That
She's
makes
right.
sense. All right. I was talking about a slightly different idea, but okay, cool.
You were talking about the going away and doing your
Well,
own thing.
it's like I've been in the position to be able to hire architects, landscape architects, and have had to be a client. And I understand, like, when I ask for something to get done and we talk about it, and we seem to be very clear about what those objectives are,
Oh, okay.
they come back and they just do their own thing.
Right.
And I'm put off by that.
Yeah.
I'm really put off by that. And just to make sure that our audience can relate to what's going on, just picture yourself, like if you've ever had a suit made for you, or like a hairdresser. Obviously I don't have that problem, but if you had a hairdresser, you might come in, and I was just talking to somebody about this earlier today, let's say it's your wedding day, and it's the most important day for a woman, right? In her life, possibly. You're gonna get married once, and you want it to look right in front of your friends and family. So you come in and you talk to the hairdresser and you describe to her what you want. And she seems like she's listening.
Right.
Or it could be a guy. And then they go and do this thing and you get a beehive hairdo.
Yeah.
And then they come back and they're like, I'm an expert. I trained in school, I've styled stars.
Right.
And your life is ruined. in that moment, and it feels like your life is ruined. So when you can understand what it's like to be a client, and you're just doing, you're solving your own problem, then you'll understand like how important it is to actually stay on brief.
Okay.
The moral of the
Okay.
story is don't give a beehive haircut. But I
Unless
get
the
it.
client asks for a beehive.
Unless that's what they asked for.
Right.
Yeah. So let's talk about the selling part. And you asked this.
Wait.
Go
We're
ahead.
not. You're jumping.
Oh, okay.
Did we talk about what it is enough? Does everybody understand what strategy is? For me, it's just a plan.
Yeah. It's
A
the
plan with
brief
very
that
clear
comes out with the brief.
objectives.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the what to do.
It's a plan, but asking enough questions to get to that plan.
Active. It's an active plan,
Yeah.
meaning that you came up with it together.
A collaborative.
That it
plan.
wasn't like just like here's what I think you should do.
Right, or here's my perspective. on
Sure.
it.
Great.
I like that.
All right.
So strategy is planning out how to get from A to B together with all of the variables that you can possibly figure out and in an
With the key
organized way.
stakeholders.
Yeah.
Okay,
Key
great.
stuff.
So why don't we talk about our own personal experiences? And I'd like to talk with Rocio and kind of just ask you, what's your experience been with trying to sell strategy? Because we're all on board here, right? We understand
We're
the
all
role
on
of the
board.
designer.
We all drank the Kool-Aid.
We want to start to
Yeah.
talk to them, engage with them in strategy.
Right.
Now we want to charge for it and be able to be compensated for our time and our value. So
Yeah.
talk to me about your experiences.
So my experience in general is that strategy, I've seen how valuable it is, and when we've applied it for clients and for projects, they've seen how valuable it is. And for the most part, those have been clients that already have our trust. We've worked with them in the past many times. They trust what we have to bring to the table. So that's been that we didn't really have to sell. We just said, hey, we have something great for you, and so that's been amazing. But then on the flip side, you're going to, maybe it's a new client, maybe you're pitching a project, and they just want to come for a site, right? A website. And so you give them your proposal, and if you input that strategy into the proposal, they're going to say, they can come back to you and say, well, why should I pay you this for just strategy when somebody else is offering, a little bit more for the whole thing?
The whole thing, yeah. They're looking at it
It's
at
a
a
hard
cost level.
sell.
It's a hard
They're
sell.
just looking
What do you
at
think the
cost.
objection is? Just it's money? They just want to do it for as little as possible? Hey guys, can you whisper at a whisper sound actually?
I don't think you can hear that in the
Oh,
audio.
yeah, but I
but
can
the
hear it.
audience can
It's
tell us if
messing
you
me
can hear
up.
the guys in the back. You can hear it? You can't hear it.
I can.
Yeah, we can hear you
Them?
guys.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Okay. All right.
Quiet on the set, god dang it.
All right. So, what is the objection? Is it about money?
Some clients are just focused on money, and they can't see the value beyond just the number, or what else you're going to give them aside from just
Okay. So the
strategy for
obstacle
this.
there is they don't see the value in it.
yeah.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
Whether you're charging, what are we talking about dollar wise here
I don't know if they're coming for a site and they have
for
10
strategy?
$10,000 for the whole site,
Right.
and then you're saying, well, the strategy is $4,000. Let's
Right.
just say.
Which is 40%.
Right,
the
and
$10,000
I've had that experience before. I've had it very frequently. And one of the things that we always talk about on the show is scale. Look, it doesn't matter whether it's $1,000 that you're charging for the website or whether it's $100,000 or $10,000. It's just a relative scale issue. The fact that you take 40% out for strategy, you're out of your mind.
Right.
Like, I don't want that. Just take it out.
And
I'm telling you what you're going to build. You build what I tell you.
well, and what you're trying to sell or you're trying to convey is that it's strategy is going to go beyond just your site.
Okay, so why don't I cue up the audience here to interact with us? So how many of you guys in the audience are experiencing something very similar, or you want to add to this conversation? Tweet us.
Yeah. Ask
At
us. Oh, at the
hashtag-
School Rocks, hashtag School Live.
Hashtag School Live at the School Rocks.
Yeah.
And Nicole will be monitoring that. So let me know if there's anything that's coming in. How many viewers do we have? Like 2?
I can't say at the moment.
Okay. Yeah.
3 or 4. Remember, for
Basically, all
those
the
of you that are
employees in the
watching,
office.
Christo really cries at night when he doesn't have more than 10 people, or 15 people. Anyway, that's
Thank you.
So I think
true.
what's interesting. It is true, but what's interesting is the idea that people want to take it out because they think is invaluable has a lot to do with how you position yourself. But that's not
Yeah.
what we're talking about right now, and we can do a whole episode on positioning yourself as
Right.
a company. But in your case scenario, you're talking at a $10,000 range. So what are options for how to solve that issue in selling it?
Well, before we get into solutions, I thought we were going to just stick to the battle plan here.
Okay.
Which we were going to all share
Yeah.
our own personal experiences.
that's what
and
I
then
wanted to do.
Get into solutions.
So,
Okay.
Is that okay?
I'll share my personal
So,
experience.
so this is just kind of like,
That's Rocio's kind of point of
Right.
view on that.
Okay.
That she's having trouble
where we're
doing
like,
that.
at that cusp, trying to grow, trying to be more
Right.
as a strategy, agency other than just, we're doing your website.
And I like your new positioning. I like the new name, Shift, right?
Shift Co-Creative.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's awesome. Why are you smiling? I like it. I like the new positioning.
He wants to see
Oh,
it.
you don't like the. Oh, I get it. Okay. All right, moving on. So what I've done when I'm selling strategy to a client is first pre-interview the primary stakeholder and find out what the objections are going to be from everyone else.
Right.
So let's assume this is a larger company. Let's assume it's a $50,000 project and it's at a local manufacturing company. So what I do, once he told me, here's the interest of the executives, I set that up in the narrative. So for an example, the macro narrative, if you guys look at my screen here, I'm going to do an overview of my presentation. I prepared this to go present to this client and their offices, and the questions that I did. So why are we here today? And it was about their interests.
You have to hit play.
Oh, I have to hit play. Yeah, that's a good point. It was about your interests. What are each of you looking for in a partner? Our goal today is to answer your questions. Can these guys get the design right? What is working with the agency like? How do we get there? Meaning, how do we get from A to B? And more importantly, to get to know each other. So, okay, let's get started. So I answer the design question, and when I get to the question of how we're going to work together, I actually show them this. I show them, look, the most important part is defining your brand, defining your goals, and defining your users' needs, and that's going to make your website. You see a little diagram of a website in the middle? That's very clever.
I thought that was a PC computer.
No, it's a little website.
It's like an old.
So we define your brand attributes, and here's the brand attributes, and this is what it looks like in the workbook, and that helps. And I tell the story of how that helps us define what kind of typeface you choose, what kind of colors you choose, because we know your brand attributes. Here's a before, and here's an after, and it's based on the.
Oh,
brand.
one more time, before.
Before, ugly,
Okay, so this is for
that
manufacturing
hurts my
company.
eyes.
This is for a manufacturing company, and after.
Okay.
And this was a case study specifically about a manufacturing company being presented to a manufacturing company. You get my point? So it was really relevant.
Oh, okay.
Then I show them, look, and we do these stylescapes, and we present them, and here's the CEO of the company and their marketing director.
What's his expression?
He's like, what's going on?
We
No,
paid for this?
He was super cool. And by the way, they were so stoked about the way we were presenting to them and that we were including them. They felt they were in the studio with us. So they were all involved. And then you just keep on presenting them. Here's how we do user
So
profiles.
it's almost like you're allowing them to visualize themselves in the process.
Visualize
Yeah.
yourself in it. Here's how we do the customer
like that.
profiles, and you participate. Oh, by the way, Mr. Client, here, we did customer profiles for you ahead of time. Like we did fake ones. We made them up. We just actually did it real quick. Is this your customer? And you know what? We brought a customer in. We actually brought a real customer. So when I'm closing a deal, I want to get as much fidelity as possible. So there was somebody in our neighborhood who used their product. I knew he was a musician. I run into him in a cafe and I say, "Hey, do you use this product?" And he's like,
Right.
"Yeah, I do." Like, "Tell me about it." "Oh, I'll tell you about it." So I knew everything about the product when I walked in. And then finally, what are the business goals and how do we prioritize that? So basically, I just showed him the whole thing in this presentation, and then I said the business goals and the priorities help us define what your sitemap is, they help us define what priorities there are in the functionality, and that's how I sell strategy.
Cool.
So you really get together a solid presentation that kind of brings them into the process and they can visualize what it's all about.
Yes.
So I have
Alright.
a different way of saying that. Very,
Okay.
not just different words really. So if we can cut to my slide. So the reason why I talk about strategy and having some kind of objective roadmap is in order to score, we need to know where the goal is.
Score! Oh, wait,
Right?
no, it's
So there's like a sports
goal!
metaphor, but you
Yeah.
can understand that.
I like
or,
that.
I don't need to know exactly the target, but I need to know what wall it's on. We need to be
Yeah.
facing the right direction, and
Right.
once we have that, we can go away and do design work and dig into it.
It's funny how it reflects our personalities. I'm very experiential and about how it's going to be working together.
Yeah.
You're like a girl.
Go. Thanks, I'm like a girl.
You talk through the whole process.
Oh,
and
I
how
want
you're
to
gonna-
feel
Yeah.
the emotions.
Share
Thank
our
you.
feelings
Isn't that offensive? That's
and
not.
go in.
And you're about the scoring.
No, it's
I'm
not
trying to
offensive because you
say-
need both.
You need both.
You really need both.
Ooh.
I'm
Yeah,
trying
you
to
need
say
both.
it in the fewest number of words.
The funny part is that she's the one in the middle,
I
like
really
mediating
am.
between
like,
us.
Figuratively.
All right,
and literally.
explain your process, Chris.
Well, I'm going through this process. I'm not that far away from where Rocio's position was in terms of convincing clients that they should pay for strategy. Now, I've done it with you. We've had to do it for free, because I needed to know what it was, and I needed a case study to show it.
And that's
And
okay.
so that's an important thing to do.
Yeah.
So once I have that, and I've done this before, I'm very transparent about my process. So I begin the conversation something like this. I've incorporated strategy into my practice that helps my clients produce higher fidelity design work, but also to solve some business objectives, to help them market, to help them gain clients, and help to get there faster. In order to do that, I need to spend time understanding your customers, and when we do that, we're able to kind of find insight into your business that you may not even be aware of. And so for that, I'm going to charge you $10,000 to do that, and I get some pushback. That's a lot of money. And I said, I don't want to talk to you about the project until we can do this. Now I use it as a test. It's a quick fit check to see if they value ideas and strategy. If they don't, I need to move on.
That's a really good point. Are you okay and willing to walk away?
Absolutely. Because I have another source of income. So
Right.
for some of our viewers, this may be a big deal. This may be, do
A
I eat
breaker.
this month? Do I pay the rent? Or
Yeah.
do I take the job and just do the design work?
What's an alternative to
Right.
that? Because I've been in this situation
Right.
where I had to take the job.
Set up the parameters to this.
Well, the alternative is, shit, I can't pay my people or I can't pay my rent, so I got to take this job. And if the client says take strategy out, which is what you're saying that they might do, what do you think alternatives would be?
Well, you can maybe give them one good alternative. If you're really trying to still build this, you're trying to build case studies.
Yeah.
Maybe you give them a reduced rate.
Yeah.
And you
Or for
say,
free.
you know
Tell
what?
them I'm not going to charge you for the
Either
strategy.
for free or reduced, and say if you're willing to be one of our case studies.
Perfect.
And let us film.
We are getting
We've done
paid.
that.
things.
We've done that.
Trojan
Yeah,
sword.
and that's
strategy is
huge.
free of charge. We're charging you for the website,
Yeah.
and they'll be like,
And so you could, you can do that with a project where you really want to have that in your portfolio, or you're really interested in it, or they'll be great to work with, but they simply don't have the budget.
Yeah.
Because then that actually instills trust as well, because as you go through the process with them, then they see how amazing it is, how
Okay.
much you know, and then down the road when they have bigger budgets, you're a part of their team. I think that's the whole key thing too, is like, we don't want to be designers or design agencies or design teams. We want to be part of what the client trusts and part of that
yeah.
team.
You don't want to be an order taker. You want to be
A partner.
a partner.
Yeah.
Not a vendor,
Yeah.
a partner. So first option is to present your position, and if you have a cushion or some runway to say no to the client,
Do that.
do that if
Right.
that's right for you.
Right.
Take the work and explain to them that because you're still, you'll do this for them because you believe it's so valuable.
Yeah.
You'll do it for free, but they need to agree that this is going to be part of a case study, and
Yeah.
you need testimonials
great.
and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And that's another way to do it. Okay.
That's a great way. Those are good solutions. All right,
Right.
so let's move forward.
So let's move forward. So let's move on to the next slide. So now we're gonna break it down, like the process. Whew, now Andrew is like reading my mind or something. Boom, he's getting good. All right, so we've
He's
kind of
on
broken
it.
down, this is called scaffolding basically. It's to take a bigger goal and break it into smaller size pieces here. So I'll run this, just giving them broad overview, and then Jose and Rocio, please join in on the conversation. So first is DIY, meaning do it yourself, do it for your own brand, for your own company, do it for a small client that the stakes are very low. So you have to do it at least once so you know what you're talking
Or
about.
do it for friends. I have
Do it
friends
for
who are
friends.
opening up a coffee, or they have a coffee shop business.
Low stakes, you can do it for anybody.
They're completely excited
Right.
about it. It's fun.
Okay, the next thing is once you've done it, you're gonna educate people about it. You're gonna share your process,
Yeah.
and you're gonna teach people, right, Jose, by sharing your process.
I think that, what I just did was education, meaning and we showed it, but what we're talking about here is actually sharing it, like in webinars, sharing it in talks, doing
Write an article about it.
write an article about it, going to a meetup and talking about it, going to a conference, however and whoever you can get in front of, and you can do it and record it. Like if it's a webinar, record it. If you speak at a meetup, record it, prove it,
Yeah.
and put it on YouTube's.
Okay. The next thing that you would
Come
want
on.
to do is now you know what it is, and you have a degree of mastery over it. And a degree of mastery could be you've done it twice. In my case, that's what I did. And then the next step is to give an example to your clients, tease them a little bit. So when I meet up with a new client, I sit down and kind of share with them how this process works.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and usually they'll see it right away in that little sparkle.
They'll
in their
sparkle
eye.
up, yeah.
They'll sparkle up, and they're like, "Wow, I was bringing you into this project because of video or web or some other thing that you've done. I didn't realize you even thought in this level." And I can see right away. A smart business person will see it right away and say, "Wow, you can really help me make money.
So how much are you showing them? Are you showing them a whole case study or just a snippet of it?
It's all verbal.
Okay.
I do it verbal.
And it's also what you like doing. So Chris, for example, you do the customer profile.
Sales pipeline. The
Sales
channel.
pipeline. You
Oh,
talk about
okay.
sales.
And we
He
can
gets
talk about that.
quantitative.
Wow.
I get brand and feelings
Yeah.
oriented.
And
Which I-
it probably depends on your client a little bit too, right? Because if somebody is a little bit more
It depends on your
bottom line
client.
driven.
It's all true. I mean, because Jose's positioned as a certain kind of person, when they come to him, he's already at that
You're
place
already attracting
where-
clients that
yeah,
are like you.
exactly.
Right.
So Chris's clients reflect him.
business.
Yeah.
They're business.
My
they're
clients are all
professional.
touchy-feely, like gurus and you know,
Yeah.
Jamie Oliver, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's a good point too, right? Like it's okay to start really honing in on those particular kind of clients because it's an easier sell
Yes.
too on who's more like you.
I think that
It's
comes
natural.
from it's natural,
Yeah.
and it comes with time, and it comes with being clear on who you are.
And being
So the
confident,
confidence.
in
So
what you're good at.
yes. So
Mm-hmm.
doing this for yourself, doing strategy for yourself, and defining who you are is the first step because that's going to help you position
Definitely.
and move forward. Who do I want to work with?
Right.
So positioning is important, but that's not what we're talking about. I like the scaffolding graphic a lot.
Yeah.
Wow, and it came up, and I
Yeah.
just pointed at it.
See,
and it
he's
came up.
getting so good.
I don't
now.
know how that happened.
It was a delayed effect before.
But the reason why I like that is because you said it earlier that if you break it down into these little steps, people are fearful of how I'm going to sell strategy because they think of oh my God, the whole, like, you know, I don't even know it. How am I going to sell it? So doing it for yourself first, you learn it. Educating people,
Yeah.
you learn it by teaching. And then by giving them a little taste, you learn it some more by testing it out and seeing their reaction and seeing that it's positive. And then you close. All
Okay.
right, let's move on.
So that's the whole topic, isn't it? How to sell. So maybe we can spend a little bit more time on the example and how we tease it out. I do it a certain way, you do it a certain way, you do it a certain way. Why don't we talk about that
Okay,
to
talk
try
about
to
that.
help? Because it's very abstract. I want to dive a little deeper. We only have 3 topics,
Mm-hmm.
3 points to talk about in terms of how to sell strategy. And Nicole just gave me the 5-minute warning.
Okay,
Okay.
let's do it.
So here's how I do it. So when I go in and talk to a client for the very first time, and those of you guys that have heard me speak before, I've given the same example. I come in, they're going to talk to me about a video. That's my world. That's
Right.
where I'm positioned. So they'll talk to me about a video, and I don't get too deep into that because I want to move on to the next part. So I know I've
Okay.
got about an hour here. So about 20 minutes is gone.
Yeah.
So then I say, okay, look, great. I'd love to do that project with you, but before we do that, this is the pivot. The pivot is I'd like to spend a little bit of time trying to understand who your customers are or your sales pipeline. Who are you selling to? It's not always who you think it is.
Right.
Some people do not sell to the end user. They sell through an intermediary, like a buyer, a
distributors,
consultant,
retailers,
something like that. And you need to know that.
stores.
So once I understand that, I start to ask them questions about, so where are opportunities for you to grow? Because you're doing great right now and you want to get to the next level. Then they start to identify a different kind of consumer. Either somebody that they're not getting or that they're, that a whole new market they're not going after.
Right.
Or one that they're losing business to. So I
Yeah.
start diving deep in there. I'm like a
And you
bloodhound.
can tell too by looking at them, like where they're.
No, they tell you. They tell
Yeah.
you. It's and the example that I've shared before is the real estate broker who's a very high-end person. He said that 70% of the time I'm closing business. Phenomenal numbers, by the way. All of us would love to close 70% of the people we talk to. So he said 30% I can't close and I can't figure it out. That's when I'm like bloodhound, like boom, let's dive in
Yeah.
there. I don't want to spend time in delving into where you're really good at.
Yeah. Where it's
Okay,
really
so we
going.
dive in and then we start to find things. He's like, wow, this is really helpful. I can see
like
that.
that
And then
angle.
the insights are coming up.
Yeah.
And perhaps you should think about this, this, or that. Or maybe
Right.
from what you've just told me, this is what I'm hearing. How can you address that? And then he starts answering. So I'm going to pass it on.
It's so the interesting thing is also reflects the client. So I get a lot of startups and companies that might not have defined themselves yet, or who don't know who they are,
Or who
and-
their clients are.
or who their clients are. So they're trying to define that. So let's say for a startup that comes to me. In that first meeting with the CEO, and hopefully you're meeting with the highest level possible, or their marketing people, it might be, you do the brand attributes exercise, and I'm saying,
Right.
hey, so let's do an exercise just for fun. 20 minutes in, after all the formalities, yeah, we need to build a product, we need a web product, we need an
Yeah.
app. Okay, great, but tell me a little bit about your brand. They're like, well, and you get that we don't know, and we're trying to figure that
Yeah.
out, and we have some designs. And I
Right.
said, oh, this is great. I never actually say, oh, that's awful. Let me show you how to do it, because
Yeah.
that's kind of like.
Wait. We're running out of time. I didn't understand a single thing you just said.
So when I'm working with a CEO
Tell
of
me
a startup,
how you give an example.
I give a startup, I get up on the whiteboard, if there's a whiteboard there, or on paper, I actually do the brand attributes exercise with them.
Do you tell them ahead of time this is what you're doing?
Yeah, I said, let's do a quick exercise. Let's come up with a brand statement.
Do you tell them why?
And the reason because they don't have one. They're like, well, we don't have a brand statement.
There you
I
go.
asked them, do you have a
Oh,
brand
okay.
statement?
So that's what
And
you're
they're
saying.
like,
Are
no,
they
we don't
are
have one
they
yet.
familiar with this process?
I'm telling them that this is how we're going to work together. So here's something that we would do together with your entire team, but let's try it out right now with the people that we have in the room.
So you're saying I'm giving you a little
Let me give you a little taste of it.
Perfect. So I want to just comment on that. When we did this for our clients together, we didn't tell them that, and they were like 30% or 30 or 40 minutes into it, they were still uncomfortable with where they were going. So
didn't
I love
know.
your process, but
That was
for people-
different.
I know,
That's a
I
different
know,
scenario.
I
We
know.
didn't prime them.
We didn't prime them. All I'm saying is you
Prime 'em.
want to let them know what they're doing and why it's.
But you saw the
beneficial.
presentation that I made.
Your
That's
site.
after that presentation.
site.
So after that presentation, they're like, would you like to experience how that process works?
Okay, I see.
And then you
Oh,
show
okay.
them.
I
This
see.
is not cold turkey.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's the part that I want our audience to know about.
And also, you have to feel it. You can't just get up and start doing exercises in somebody's office. Like, that's rude.
You can't do that?
1, 2, 3, 4. No, you really want to know if it's possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's giving me like wrap it up.
Yeah.
Rocio, talk to us about how you give an example and
Well, I'm a little bit in the testing phase now.
Great.
Yeah.
I love your
so,
honesty.
but right now I'm really trying to integrate it into part of our process and creating some
just kicking it under the
graphics.
table?
I tried. Sorry.
All right. I'm
And
ready.
trying to really figure out what those,
kinda
what
tight.
this presentation is going to look like.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm, pulling from the few that we've already done.
Yeah.
And then bringing testimonials in and then
I
wrapping
see.
it in.
So showing
Yeah.
case studies.
Showing case studies.
That,
yeah.
Is
That's
that
the-
helping?
It is. Well, we're in the process of doing it. So,
Okay.
but in terms of selling it, I think that I like that approach of giving a little taste so they can actually better understand.
Right. Eventually, that's what's going to happen. You have to give an
Yeah.
example because otherwise, there's a lot of talk.
I mean, and I think that one of the interesting things, and you are a really perfect case study for it because you're in the process of, developing this for yourself. It's just to start, to like try it,
Yeah.
even if you don't feel comfortable with it.
Right.
So hey,
Do
let's
it.
wrap this up. Our audience of 1 or 2, did they ask any questions, or is that saying too busy? No,
No
questions.
questions,
Nobody's
no.
watching this show. Okay, I get it.
Well, we started a little late, but that's okay.
Some things are worth
Yes.
waiting for.
True, but if we were to leave folks with a message, I mean, and the 3 things that we talked about: 1, do it for yourself and integrate it. 2, actually educate the people around you about it.
Show them what you've done.
Show them what you've done, and then 3rd, like give them a taste, give them a sampling of it,
Right.
and then you'll start doing it. I think that, and of course, close. Krista is like,
Close.
close.
You gotta close. You gotta get the deal.
You gotta get the deal.
The phrase that
Yeah.
pays.
But what's something that I think that is really interesting that we are on a mission to do is on elevating the role of the designer in general, whether it's in a corporate level or whether it's out there in the freelance world or whether you have a small agency or a boutique, to being a far more integral, strategic component of somebody's business. How you treat yourself, or not how you treat yourself, but how you present yourself is a huge part of
Yeah.
it. So
To go from a doer to somebody.
to
who's
somebody
actually
like that. So you
integrated.
have to almost exert the, I think Chris said it really well in a presentation we did about letting go of the artist persona. You're still an artist,
Yeah.
and you and I talk about this all the time. Are we foregoing and denying the creative aspect of what we do by doing what we're doing?
Well, you and I were talking about what the topic for the next show should be, and we're talking about maybe the creative brief and the
Right.
design and
Yeah.
getting those.
Getting the
people
fidelity
understand.
between what the brief is
Right.
and what
So
you're
why don't we
delivering.
end it there?
Yeah, why don't we
All
end
right.
it there?
Okay.
So the idea of, do you need to put your own creativity, or how do you translate the strategy into design, and how do you maintain your integrity as a designer in that process? That's what we're going to cover in the next episode, so that you understand that becoming a strategic designer isn't selling out, isn't becoming, an evil business guy. Like
It's
that
actually
guy.
bringing everything.
It's bringing them together. It's
Yeah.
actually
You're just
like
doing that to try to
Yeah.
cross over to your personal space, but all right.
I'm
Let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it
2
up.
things.
2 things.
Runa says, hi, I'm listening to you guys, enjoyed it clear. And one other person said, this is not really a question, it's just a compliment. You guys are really helping us. Thank you so much.
Who's that? Who's that person? Let's shout out to that
A
person.
shout out.
It's a weird Twitter handle.
Everybody's like,
Try.
It's weird, or you
Twitter
cannot
handle.
repeat the Twitter handle.
it's long, but try it.
Try.
Itamalang Madisha.
There you go.
Itamalang
Madisha.
Madisha.
Well, big shout out
Awesome
to
Twitter.
Runa and to
Thanks for
Italy.
watching,
Thank
Thanks
guys.
for watching. I'm glad we're helping.
Thank you for our audience of 2. I can sleep tonight.
Yay.
It's not the numbers. It's
Really?
not.
All right.
It's not about the numbers. All right.
You wasted a perfectly good half hour with us. Thanks for joining us. See you guys next
Click and
week.
clack the Tapper Brothers.
See ya.
Click and
All right. So we'll keep talking about.
That was good. That was a good episode. High five. It covered a lot
different.
of stuff.
We have different energy in the conference room, just the 2 of us. And any minute, Adam,
Well-
Andrew's going to tell us.